Hey everybody! Guess what? The Mega Cat is back. I'm doing a rant, baby. Something's got my fur up and I feel like I should shout about it. You know me. Typically I don't do politics, I don't do controversy. I'm all about the games, and I love my games. But a while back I did a Gamergate video, and it was fairly well received. But recently, reading and looking up information about some issues that have occurred in the Gamergate event and all this kind of stuff has made me feel like I need to address something big. So with that, yes, we're back at Gamergate once more. So let's get to it. For those of you who aren't familiar or who didn't see my last video, the Gamergate movement is sort of a lot of things right now. But basically the idea was there was a group of people who were upset about a series of reviews for a game, well, not reviews, but commentary for a game by a female developer in which it looked as if there was some impropriety going on, and it appears that there was. And it looks like he may have been giving favorable coverage because she was sleeping with him. Now, there's been a lot of argument about that, and that's not what I'm here to argue. But that is the crux of the main issue: game journalism and ethics. However, other problems have arisen, such as harassment and what have you. So let's break it down, shall we? First thing, game journalism and ethics. There are major problems in game journalism when it comes to ethics. In fact, let's just put it out there. There's major problems in journalism in general when it comes to ethics. You don't believe me? Look at Fox News or MSNBC. There's nothing resembling ethics in a lot of those places. And even if I do like pundits from one side or another, I'm going to tell you right off, they will stand by their ideals and beliefs. And that's okay if you're not a reporter. The other problem was harassment of females, arguments about diversity and gender equality in the gaming industry, which brings me to Bayonetta. A lot of the feminist arguments come down to, there's not enough females in games, they're not represented properly, and oftentimes they like to point out a character like Bayonetta as a prime example. Why? She's the perfect example of an independent, powerful woman who doesn't care about anything but what she wants and does what she thinks is right. Yes, she's beautiful. Yes, she's hot. Yes, she's amazing. You know what? That's what makes her great. Yet this idiot seems to think that examples like that, as well as Miss Pac-Man, Princess Peach, etc., blanket label the whole game industry as being misogynistic and anti-woman. Now, I don't need to prove she's a fraud. There's so much material on YouTube about that. You could look up 1,000 videos proving she's a fraud. But the thing is, she's using the same arguments that another of our enemies once used in a different context. This jerk. That's right, you all remember Jack Thompson. You all remember censor-happy douchebag number 1. Well, Anita Sarkeesian uses the same stupid arguments in a different context for the same purpose, to try and force censorship through political and societal pressure. That is bullshit. The market, in my opinion, should be allowed to set the standard, and right now, what it sells is what it sells. Leave it the hell alone. Jack Thompson wanted to censor it outright, so Gamergate sort of formed as an amalgam of different issues, journalism, feminism, all this other stuff, and as a natural course of that, drew in harassment and other problems. Now, that being said, there are other issues that I want to bring up involving Gamergate, so we're going to get to that in just a second. And the primary problem I have with the Gamergate movement is that it's being blanket labeled. And that's where I'm going to talk about right now. 4 personalities in particular got my attention. Total Biscuit, who you see here, a well-known YouTube personality with over 2 million subscribers. Movie Bob, who you see here, not quite anywhere near close to that popular, but has had a long-running show and was a big part of The Escapist for a long time. By the way, recently fired from The Escapist. Next, Jim Sterling. Huge fan of this guy. Don't always agree with him and think there's times when he's been very wrong. But I love his style, and I love his courage to stand for what he believes in and fight for what he thinks is right, even if I don't always agree with him. Lastly, Angry Joe. This man did one very comprehensive video about the controversies of 2014 for the video game industry, and I thought he did a beautiful job about Gamergate. Some stuff was a little bit wrong, some stuff was really right, but all in all, fair and accurate portrayal, if not always exactly correct. Now moving on, what was it about these unique people that got my attention? Well, starting with Total Biscuit. He has long supported the idea of, improving ethics in game journalism, and I can't blame him. There is definitely a need for it. Now, on that subject, what really irritated me was he's gotten into a lot of very public Twitter spats with people that got very ugly. But one of the most irritating things I saw was he was undergoing cancer treatment, and he was being attacked while going through cancer treatment. Yeah, stay classy, internet. That really shows that, the other side of the Gamergate controversy is all civil, polite, and nice. What garbage. But that being said, I'm all for the idea that, there should be an open conversation about these issues, and there should be truthful discussion about it. And he has tried to foster that and been attacked and insulted at every turn. So that's one of the things that bothered me. Next, MovieBob. I've often made a note, and even pointed out in another video, that one of his biggest problems was he actively and seemingly intentionally insulted and drove away entire groups of people who could be part of his fan base. Simply because ideologically or personally, he is so myopically blind to his own point of view that no other counterpoint could be accepted. And while I understand some of the points he's made, he's become so entrenched in those ideologies that at this point he's one of his own most hated pet peeves. He's a believer, not a thinker. And that's sad because I actually like his work. But over time he's driven a lot of people away because he's become more and more abusive. And now he's been fired from The Escapist. Now Jim Sterling left The Escapist. And not only that, but he's now running his own website, still putting the Jimquisition up, and is doing very well, and I have watched his work. He continues to be very entertaining. I don't always agree with him. I think some of his statements have been either proven wrong or erroneous, but he's been right most of the time. A good example is a lot of people called him out about the whole Target thing where Australia Target and Walmart pulled games from the shelves, and people said, look, the feminists are making the games, unavailable, and no, that was pressure on the stores making it unavailable, not Jim Sterling being wrong, and he couldn't have predicted that either way. Now, I do think he's underestimating the threat such things generate, but he didn't do it intentionally, guys. Now, lastly is Angry Joe. Typically, this guy tries to be honest about things, and even if he isn't always exactly 100% correct on either side, he tries to be fair, which I admire. Now, there's been some people who point out some mistakes he made in a particular video, and yeah, he did. But he tried very hard to be very, very, very honest and avoid, saying one side was right and one side was wrong. He just said, look, there's arguments on both sides, and we should be looking at them as a practical matter rather than, letting the vitriol rule the day. And he's right, the harassment, the vitriol, they're overshadowing the legitimate argument. But there's other problems too that we'll get to. My question is, when did gamers started fighting other gamers? I don't mean like in games or anything, I mean politically and ideologically. It's like Goku versus Vegeta. We should be on the same side, people! I mean, yeah, we have our differences and we have our disagreements, but we should still be a team. We should still be supporting the industry that we believe in and calling it out when it does things wrong. Instead, Gamergate is falling the gamers themselves to fall on each other and causing more harm than the media or Jack Thompson ever did. It should not be Goku versus Vegeta. We should all be Goku versus Frieza, which is all these other bullshit. And we'll get to that. But seriously, why are we fighting each other? We should not be. Yes, we might have disagreements. Yes, we might have issues. but we should all still be unified because there are things that legitimately need to be addressed, and we are not addressing them because we're too busy fighting each other and being vitriolic to each other. Now, a big problem with the whole feminist side is a lot of people have argued that games over-sexualize females. But the thing is, here's my point. That may be true. That doesn't inherently mean that they're sexist or misogynist. It means that those appeal to the audience those games are going to. And if you don't like it, don't buy it. That's fine. Don't support it. That's fine. But don't try to tell them they don't have the right to make it. They have every right to make it, and you trying to tell them they can't is the same as, someone saying you can't write a book because they disagree with its content. Or you can't make a movie because it doesn't tell the story we want to tell. That's as bad, if not worse. And at least with this, it's not censorship by direct action, it's censorship by proxy. Dragon's Crown, the game you see in front of you, yeah, it was hypersexualized. Didn't mean that the game was wrong. There's even, people who say there should be more females in game. You know what? I'm 100% behind that. In fact, here's a picture of a female Link that was in Hyrule Historia, and I thought, you know what? I would be totally behind that. I would love to see Legend of Zelda with a female lead character. I think it'd be great. I mean, certainly I think if they do have a voice-acted version of Legend of Zelda, I want Link to be female. Because I think you'd actually have better luck with the voice actors than anyone else. But seriously, I don't think it's a bad idea to want more females in games and have them written well and properly performed and everything. I think the problem is we shouldn't be trying to exclude other depictions just because you don't like them. We are gamers. Like it says, I have a life. I also choose to have many. It's why I love games. I can do stuff that I normally can't do. In fact, I'm going to be doing a little video soon telling people about why I think some games are worth their time. And we as gamers should share information. We should share our thoughts. We should discuss these matters. We shouldn't be falling to rancor and attacking each other. And that's what has happened. And a good example of this is, again, Movie Bob. Movie Bob is a guy who... There was a time I actually admired him because I thought he was a very intelligent, very honest guy. And yet, when it boiled right down to it, as time went on, I watched as he became more and more abusive to his fan base. Insulting ideals or insulting, beliefs that he disagreed with simply because they were held by other people. And while it's fine to disagree, insulting or attacking people for those beliefs only gets you more enemies. Now he's been fired from The Escapist, and there's a lot of people who theorize it's because of it. I don't think it's true, but it is possible that it was a contributor. Again, Total Biscuit is another great example. This is a guy who, in all the material I found, yes, he comes off as abrasive, but not attacking or accusatory. He's saying what he thinks and is being honest about it. He's not a person we should be attacking. We should be discussing things with him because he's got the right idea about having a discussion about it. This is who we should be going after. And I don't mean that we should be harassing her or attacking her or threatening her. We should be proving her as the fraud she is, and we should be making sure that she is never allowed to bilk people out of their money again. That's what we should be doing. We should also be going after companies who overpromise and underdeliver. Looking at you, Destiny. Seriously, I saw so much potential in that game, and I was so disappointed by its end result. There's so much good ideas there, and so little of it came to fruition. Now, fair is fair. I mean, there's always problems with any development, but when you promise something so grand and you fail, it really hurts your reputation. Sorry, Bungie. Again, another problem is game journalism. It is so entrenched in the media and so entrenched in the business that it has become almost to the point of, what can you say? It is corrupt to its core. I know there's good journalists out there trying to do good work, but so much of that industry is now entrenched with the companies they report on that there's no way it can be unbiased or fair. It just can't. Some try, some succeed, most fail. And we can't go around attacking, feminists or individual journalists, that's like yelling at a kitten. Yeah, the kitten did something wrong, but there's a bigger problem than just this little kitten who made a mistake. Yelling at them is not accomplishing much. You're essentially wasting air screaming at the least responsible party. There are bigger targets for our anger, and we shouldn't be going after each other or, this reporter, that reporter, this internet personality, that internet personality. We should be going after the bigger picture. And that is where I think Gamergate has lost sight of its goals. There was a time when we wanted, the people who support game journalism ethics, where what we wanted was for game journalism to be divorced and separated from its, corporate overlords, so to speak. And I think that's where it all started, but I think it was hijacked by the harassment, by the abuse, by the constant back and forth between both sides. It got so vitriolic and so hyperbolic and so brutal that any real debate or discussion was lost in the sea of noise. And Ania Sarkeesian and others like her are examples of this. They would accept no debate because they could not accept that they might be wrong. And it goes both ways. We have to accept that there's other points of view, and we have to be willing to look at both sides of any argument to say, yeah, maybe there's a point here. And with all the noise and hatred, we can't do that. Now lastly, one of the things that got me started on this was a YouTuber by the name of Sargon of Akkad. And I don't really know the reference very well because the history on that's kind of blurry to me. But his basic point is, he makes videos that point out the stupidity and insipidness of a lot of the things going on in the world. And I hate to say it, folks, but the fact that it's going on is like a real downer to me. Because I think as a people, as a society, we should be better than this bull crap. Seriously, look up his stuff and find out what he talks about. He's talked at length about feminism, politics, all kinds of stuff. He does a weekly show called This Week in Stupid that is great at pointing out retarded crap going on in the world. It's worth looking into. In the end of the day, Total Biscuit, Angry Joe, Movie Bob, the fighting between them and others got so bad that I began to think that maybe our entire group as gamers had just broken. We should not be dividing ourselves up into little camps. We're gamers first. We should all be together. What we should be doing is going against wrong, going against people who are wrong, like her. She is a fraud. There's plenty of evidence to point that out. Tons of it, in fact. She bilked people out of thousands and thousands of dollars of money to produce a show that Angry Joe tops on a weekly basis with half the time. No, she robbed people blind, and the Mega Cat isn't happy about that. I'm not happy about Gamergate driving gamers against one another. It's time we as a group reforged ourselves into a single group and said, you know what? We're going to stand for what's right, not for this vitriol and hatred. We're going to stand against frauds, against abuse, against harassment, and we're going to stand against corrupt game journalists and all they represent. And I hope that we get that done. Because right now, we aren't. We are fighting each other and not fighting the problem. Bob, Biscuit, Joe, Jim, I hope they all come together and start working together to deal with real problems. Because that's what's needed. Not them fighting each other, not us fighting each other. Anyway, I'm done. I'll see you all next time. The MegaCast signing out. Gonna have some stuff involving Elite Dangerous shortly. See you then. Bye.